sad that the UK is leaving the European Union, particularly when the people of Northern Ireland voted to remain. When EU Council President Donald Tusk formally accepted the UK's letter triggering Article 50, he remarked, "We already miss you." And I think that echoed how most of us felt. Both islands being members of the European Union meant we never had to think about trade or commerce. We are accustomed to seamless movement of goods and services, and have always been on the same side of the table. Brexit changes all of that, and this is more acutely felt in Ireland along the Northern Irish border. The Memorandum of Understanding signed recently between the UK and Irish governments to protect the Common Travel Area, which predates membership of the European Union, addresses many areas of concern, in particular movement of people across both islands. But it does not and it cannot address the trade issues. Ireland trades at least €1 billion worth of trade every week with the UK, and our agri-food products cross our island on a daily and seamless basis. People voted for Brexit, but much of the campaign was based on false promises. And I think it's fair to say that the Remain campaign didn't do a good enough job at tackling that. The catastrophic impact of Brexit will have on the economy and on public services in the UK was rarely even mentioned during the debates. But one of the most memorable things from the Leave campaign was the big red bus that went across the country, stating that over £350 million would be reinvested in the NHS if Britain left the European Union, a figure that has since been discredited. In the last week alone, sterling has plunged to a 2-year low on a mounting risk of a no-deal Brexit. Here we have had numerous economic forecasts. None of them are positive, and they all spell out the very negative impact on our economy. Depending on the type of Brexit that we get, we could face a loss in the region of 55,000 jobs, with 12,500 of those jobs in the agri-food sector. And we could see a £6.5 billion deficit in the state finances if we get a hard Brexit. So there is no good Brexit. And even with the deal, there will be a negative impact on employment growth of around 1.8%, and in a no-deal scenario, this jumps to about 3.8%. Brexit will negatively impact every single household on this island. Over the past 2 months, the Conservative Party leadership contest has provided all sorts of entertainment for us. The Kipper stunt last week actually epitomised how politics has now become more about stunts than actual substance. Good one-liners and smart rebuttals seem to get you past most questions, and the style of debates we have seen are more about kicking your opponent than talking about your own ideas and solutions. The test should be tougher, considering candidates are interviewing to lead the next UK government. Both candidates, Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt, have said the backstop is dead, and both have also ruled out a customs union. Both have talked about the possibility of a Halloween hard exit to appeal to their party voters. It has become almost a badge of honour about who will deliver the hardest Brexit. While none of us here today know for sure the result tomorrow, it seems that Boris Johnson is odds-on favourite to become the next Prime Minister and will be sworn in on Wednesday. We are all hoping for a deep sense of reality dawning when he takes the office of Prime Minister. But we are further hoping that if sense does not prevail, that the House of Commons can intervene and stop a hard Brexit. So there is a lot of hope on hope. However, the indications do not look good. And as Ronan McRae said recently, if Boris is at the wheel, Brexit will take a dramatic turn. In the last few days, a senior EU diplomat has described the two contenders' comments on the withdrawal treaty as living in a fantasy world. It is unfortunate that even when the newly elected head of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said that she was open to extending the October deadline, she was actually booed by Brexit MEPs. This is not a sensible or pragmatic approach and is no way to do politics, no matter what side of the debate people sit on. Once the Prime Minister is elected and appoints a new cabinet, they will have to engage with the EU, including the Irish government, on how to avoid a hard Brexit. At least a majority of MPs in Westminster are united on one thing. They do not want a hard Brexit, but unfortunately they don't want the withdrawal treaty either. And never the twain shall meet. The EU has been consistent and constantly supportive of the European backstop. The UK continues to talk about the Irish backstop to put pressure on us to bend, but it is clear it is an EU backstop. But we have to also accept that while it is the UK's choice to leave without a deal if they so choose, as the Taoiseach said this week, equally it is our choice to hold on to the backstop, knowing that without a deal, it won't exist. The backstop is necessary not just to protect trade on the island, but more fundamentally, it is also central to protecting the Good Friday Agreement. The signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998 represented a new dawn for this island, our people, and Anglo-Irish relations. It was strongly endorsed by people north and south, by 71% in the north and 94% in the Republic, and set in train the process of normalising relations between north and south, Catholic and Protestant, Unionist and Nationalist, and Ireland and England. The peace achieved was hard fought for, and the memories of conflict are still very fresh for many citizens. Peace is a fragile thing. It is a daily process and must be maintained and never taken for granted. This is why there is a real fear of the damage Brexit could do to peace and stability on this island. The notion of re-erecting a physical border is something we simply cannot countenance. Could you imagine telling the people of Germany that we plan to rebuild the Berlin Wall? Physical infrastructure represents division, and it harks back to a dark time in our country's past that no one wants to revisit, particularly the people of Northern Ireland and the border communities. The establishment of power-sharing executive in Stormont, North-South bodies, and the British Irish Council, coupled with peace funding from the European Union, helped to sow the seeds for cross-party and cross-community cooperation. The state visit by Queen Elizabeth II in May 2011 demonstrated the extent to which relations between our islands had evolved and matured. The visit by the Queen to such sites as Croke Park and the Garden of Remembrance were significant and symbolic. The return visit by our President, Michael D. Higgins, in 2014 was another stepping stone on the road to normalising relations and moving on from our often sorrowful past. These visits demonstrate what we can achieve when we actively work together for the betterment of these islands and our peoples. In preparation for today, I reread the speech which Queen Elizabeth gave at Dublin Castle. It was thoughtful and considered, and it spoke of our complex history and the strong ties between our two nations. And I was struck by the following remark. With the benefit of historical hindsight, we can all see the things which we would wish had been done differently, or not at all. I wonder in time to come, will those sentiments be expressed not only about the UK's decision to leave the European Union, which of course is their democratic right, but also about what has transpired since then and the deterioration in Anglo-Irish relations and in cross-party cooperation in Northern Ireland. In the immediate aftermath of the referendum result in June 2016, Sinn Féin demanded a referendum on Irish unity, not allowing a pause for consideration or reflection, whilst the DUP, who had campaigned to leave, welcomed the result without due consideration for the vast array of implications for Northern Ireland, the all-island economy, North-South cooperation, or East-West trade. Irresponsible words and irresponsible actions rubbed salt into wounds that were still in the process of healing and reignited tension, division, and discord. For many younger people in Northern Ireland, born either shortly before or after the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, Brexit has, for the first time, brought the constitutional question to the fore, something they have not had to confront in their lifetime. The impact of this is to bring the divisions and tensions of the past to a whole new generation. In the absence of an executive and political leadership in Northern Ireland, these feelings have been allowed fester, drawing ordinary citizens and political parties back into tribal positions, which tend to drag us back into the past rather than allowing a space to plan for a shared future. Ireland and the UK have always regularly met on the fringes of European Council meetings and are allies at the EU table, sharing similar views on many issues. We work closely together and interact through the mechanisms of the European Union. These structures will no longer be available to us, and we must find new mechanisms and new forums to continue to work together. Our relationship with the UK as we know it is effectively coming to an end, but we will forge a new relationship post-Brexit which reflects the long-standing social, cultural and political links between our two islands. Relations between the British and Irish governments have deteriorated. Whilst my party leader, Micheál Martin, has pointed out that this began prior to the referendum in 2016 and the hands-off approach that was adopted by both governments to the peace process, it has notably worsened since then. At times, the language used by the Irish government and derision towards the UK has been unhelpful. While in the short term it may win kudos here at home, it has damaged relations with the UK, who we must not forget will, after Brexit, remain our nearest neighbour, an important trading partner and co-guarantor of the Good Friday Agreement. New wounds have been created by Brexit, and I worry about the resentment that has been building among British citizens towards Ireland, both Leave and Remain voters. The feeling, rightly or wrongly, by a significant number of British citizens is that Ireland has not been a very good neighbour during these negotiations. While I disagree with that, we will have to deal with the fallout of this for years to come, particularly if there is a hard Brexit. Nevertheless, despite some errors on the government's part, elected representatives from all political parties and none have stood behind the government and put our country's interests first. This is something which we must be proud and unfortunately is in stark contrast to what we can see in Westminster. Whilst I don't think anyone could have anticipated the degree to which Brexit would destabilise British politics, it has been distressing to watch the numerous debates in Westminster. It is deeply disappointing to see certain sections of British political establishment turn their backs on the European Union. The UK tone towards the EU has at times been battle-like, but this is not a conflict anyone can or will win. Both sides should instead be working towards a solution. Britain's relationship with the continent has always been a bit like its geographic location, slightly removed. Britain just wants to trade. It has always been uneasy with greater cooperation and integration, fearing a loss of sovereignty and a more federal Europe. Brexit has shown us that not only is European solidarity clearly not for them, they simply cannot understand it and have greatly underestimated its resilience. Britain has, to its detriment, assumed that trade is the top priority for the EU. But the EU is about much more than that. The absence of logic, reason and realism has at times been breathtaking. It has not only divided the UK, but it has created an environment of division and distrust between the UK and EU member states, and has unfortunately strained Anglo-Irish relations. We cannot allow this to continue, we must address it, and we will be foolhardy to reverse the progress that has been made since 1998. Against the backdrop of sterling falling last week, Jacob Rees-Mogg dismisses this and other projections as Project Fear, and has claimed that the idea that we will be poorer in the long term, and even in the short term after Brexit, is a myth. The reality is the UK is already poorer because of Brexit. It has already damaged social cohesion, reignited the debate on the fragmentation of the Union, diminished the UK's standing on the international stage, and has shown itself to be a less hospitable and welcoming place. A no-deal Brexit will only serve to expose these issues more. Early rise in unemployment and impact on public services causes greater divisions in communities and can lead to major societal issues. It can lead to disruption, racism and far more inequality. It has real potential to cause deeper divisions in the UK as well, and may take longer to resolve in their political sphere. The new Prime Minister, whoever he will be, will have to realise that he will have the weight of his country on his shoulders, and he will not be able to resolve this issue by sloganeering. Being Prime Minister is not an easy job. He should seize this opportunity to really lead, irrespective of promises made during a leadership contest. To quote John F. Kennedy, "The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining." The sun is still shining, the worst has not yet happened, and there is still time to get a deal done. This should not be seen as spineless or considered a failure, but rather for what it is, putting egos last and country first. Politics is about serving the people. Pride should never get in the way of that. An orderly Brexit is in the interests of everyone, the EU, the UK, businesses and citizens alike. We can only hope that whoever comes to occupy number 10 will have the courage and the mettle to deliver what is ultimately right. In the meantime, we must be as prepared as possible for the worst possible outcome. October 31st is just over 100 days away, We are not ready for a hard Brexit, and we need to up our game considerably over the next few weeks to be as prepared as we possibly can be. We can only hope that Brexit will not be allowed to leave permanent scars damaging our future. We need to address the break in East-West relations and the political paralysis in Northern Ireland. It is totally unacceptable that the Assembly is being left bare and idle while Brexit is happening. This is such a crucial time for Northern Ireland, and its citizens need their politicians to do the job they elected them to do. The political vacuum needs to be addressed, so let us hope that the talks ongoing will come to a successful conclusion in the interest of the citizens of Northern Ireland. We must cultivate links at all levels of government, both north, south and east and west, and also use our excellent diplomatic corps to full effect. We must facilitate the strengthening of links across all facets of life, including business, sport, the art and politics. We must continue to normalise relations, despite the challenges. And despite all that has happened and all that is to come, I am hopeful for our shared future. We are a resilient people, and as the song goes, there is a crack in everything. It's how the light gets in. Thank you very much.